What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Tuesday edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. And hockey fans, check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. You must be 19 or older, so please play responsibly. And as always, we're also presented by Parasso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care. Made in Italy since 1948, Parasso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Parasso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. That's Colby Cohen. I'm Jonny Lazarus. We got Jeff Marek joining here off the hop, and then JVR, James van Riemsdyk, at around 9:40-ish. We'll talk World Cup of Hockey. We'll talk GM meetings with Jeff. Not sure if we want to start with anything, Colby, specifically off the hop, or if we just want to bring Jeff right in. Anything you wanted to get off your chest before we do bring on Jeff?
Let's bring him in.
All right, let's bring Jeff right in. Let's get this show started. Jeff,
hey,
I have a huge concern about this World Cup of Hockey stuff.
Why is that?
Because I was talking to Vic before we got things started this morning.
There's your first mistake.
I shouldn't have opened up to him. But
all right, it's fine.
Is the best on best thing going to become too much too often? If we're doing every other year, are we going to get spoiled by it? And then will that diminish how we feel toward the NHL? I feel like if we see continuous best on best, the NHL and our love for it might just decrease a little bit if we get too spoiled. And, I know everyone loves it and I don't want to be a party pooper or a hater, but that kind of is a concern of mine with how everyone, I heard people saying, oh my God, the Olympics were amazing, how it's so hard to go back to watching NHL hockey. And now if we're doing this every other year, what happens then?
Well, before I answer, let me just have a sip of coffee in my
look at that
mug here.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Just getting the day started right
Great
on
branding.
Show. I know, right? It just tattooed on a baseball bat and just started slamming it into people. Okay, so a few things. One, I'm glad you brought this point up, because one of the things that I don't think got enough concert was how kind of tough it was to go back to watching NHL hockey. Now, after the Olympics, a couple of things. The players were still rusty too, and it's going to be a couple of games, but there was a noticeable difference in quality, obviously, coming back from the. I've thought about that one too, Johnny. Growing up, the big tournament was always the Canada Cup, right? 1976 Canada Cup was my first big one. I was too young for 1972 in the Summit Series and all that, but that was my first sort of taste of international hockey, and that would happen every 4 years. And then that turned into the World Cup. 87 was insane Canada Cup. 96 was an incredible World Cup, which Canadians would probably talk a lot more about as far as quality of hockey goes, but Canada didn't win that tournament. The United States did, so we kind of shelved that. But I'll put that quality of hockey up against 87 any day of the week. I think it's a good problem to have. We have international hockey at a level where, there's a number of competitive teams and the stories are compelling, and we can see that hockey has another level. And I'm always interested in sort of what the best we can see is. But the one at Buffalo, the Snow Globe game, I remember watching that and saying, this is amazing. Let's only do it every 4 years to make it really, really special. And then it turned into every year, and then Stadium Series. And now it still exists mainly as a vehicle for the live event, not so much a TV product. So that's kind of changed, and it's become a bucket list item for a lot of hockey players. I think if they did any more than every couple of years, we might have a legitimate concern. But I think as laid out now, with every couple of years, either an Olympics or a World Cup, I think it's good. And I think it's fine. I think it sort of quenches that international hockey thirst. Here's a question I thought about yesterday. And this will change for every player based on their history and based on what they've done or what they've grown up with. How many players on that U.S. men's gold medal team would exchange their gold medal for a Stanley Cup ring?
Ooh. I think a lot of them said the gold medal means more.
I don't know. I mean, Jeff,
I
almost feel like that's like asking a parent who their favorite kid is.
Sophie's choice. Sophie's. I know.
You know what I mean? It's like we all have a favorite child, but we're also not really. We say it kind of jokingly. You know what I mean? And maybe depending on the week or depending on maybe different for you. Your kids are older, but whoever was in the principal's office that week for back talking or took a bad penalty or didn't back check or whatever the case may be. So I just think that's like the who's your favorite child question. It really will just depend on the week.
Well, but the thing is, like, once upon a time, it was just like, Stanley Cup, that's it, all I'm focused on my entire life. But, now, first of all, I think there are a lot of European players where they just they've grown up amongst, international hockey and international hockey events, and the World Championship means a lot more there than it does here. So I think a lot of European players might be warmer to the idea of like, I'll take a gold medal over a Stanley Cup any day of the week.
Hasn't that always?
But in North America, it's different. It's always kind of been that way.
I feel like, I was just gonna say, like, I feel like for a long time, a lot of the Russian players would get a bad rep, and people would say you don't want to have a Russian guy leading your team in the playoffs because their mind is focused on world championships because it's a bigger deal for them. I know that sparks a larger conversation right now, especially with everything going on. And yesterday, people were weighing in on whether they should be back, whether they shouldn't be back. Here's the other thing I want to throw your way, Jeff.
Yeah.
And Johnny, weigh in here too. Like, when it comes to today's player, these guys are so much more connected. Like, you're not going and meeting anybody for the first time anymore when you go to like Olympic orientation camp. Between social media, for here, we have the U.S. program. I know Team Canada doesn't have a national development team, but they still have their U18 team. They still have their U20 team. They still get together for the Spangler Cup. Like, there's still a Hockey Canada presence at the senior level and even at the youth level. So that's the other thing. Like, I think I'll
fire back though. I think Jarvis said last year he didn't know anyone on Team Canada when he went into the locker room at Four Nations.
So then let me. Okay, so that's a fair.
I believe so. I believe so.
Point. On so let me finish my sentence here on that though, Johnny. Would be like, maybe that's an advantage that the Americans do have. And for the people who are yelling and screaming to get rid of the NTDP, and there's a case to be made for saying, hey, you know what? They should take all the money that goes to the NTDP, put all that money into the USHL, and take the USHL to another level because there's more funding. But then the fair counter argument would be, look how many guys from that Olympic team came through the national development team, and look at how close they are. These guys were already childhood brothers from being on that team. I mean, you guys see it. Like, Reamer comes on this show, every other week. And I guess maybe with him it's a little different because we met at such a young age, being from the same like geographical area, the same district and everything like that. But that closeness that we all got in that program and sort of through USA Hockey, like, that does create this stronger, deeper bond that I feel like those guys have. I'm not saying Canada didn't have that, by the way. I think those guys would have killed for each other as well. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that they wouldn't have sold their souls for one another, by the way. I'm just so I'm not but I'm just saying it's a really, really fair and reasonable point to bring up.
The thing that I do like, though, is that every country has a different way to do it, right? Like, and I don't like, just that I think that there's not one specific way to win the Stanley Cup. It's always been sort of the bane of my existence, like how teams just sort of chase or ape whatever is successful the year before. I like that the United States has their own way to do it. Canada has its own way to do it. Sweden has its own way to do it. And what we're at as far as the sort of global world of hockey right now is we're at a level now where a lot of ideas are getting shared. And everything is starting, which goes right down to the very beginnings. Like, I'll tell you, where there was a huge, like a massive pushback, and I can tell you specifically with authority because that's what I was going through it when my kids were young in minor/youth hockey, and that was half ice. And you know what the pushback was? That I kept hearing from people, like, this is from other parents too. This isn't from administrators. Administrators were all for this. This started in Sweden and then got exported to the United States, and from the United States it bled into Canada. And one of the big criticisms was, and I'm like, how stupid are we? Like, stop with like this. You're just shutting yourself off. They didn't want to do it because we're not doing what Americans do. I heard that so many. Oh, that's the way Americans do it. We're not gonna. There's still that sort of side of we're still on top of the mountain and we can learn nothing from anybody else, which is a recipe for failure. Which is why I like that everyone has a different way to do it, and that there's not just one very specific way to develop champions or elite level teams. And what it really does is it exposes those who are forward thinking, and it really exposes those that just want to, plug their ears and close their eyes and say our way is the best way, and I'm not going to have any conversation to the contrary.
Can I hit you both?
I'll be honest, like, we heard a lot of it here in Canada when Half Ice started.
Can I hit you both with another idea? And this doesn't really have to do with like the way a country develops its players, but this is something that Vic and I were talking about in regards to the best on best and whatnot. Yeah. Well, no. This is kind of hilarious. So like what we were saying before about how best on best might make it harder to watch the NHL. What if in the off years that we're not doing best on best, we did a worst on worst to make you appreciate the NHL a little bit more? You have to have guys that are averaging at .20 or less points per game, and you put them on a team together, and then you watch that for 2 weeks, and then you go back to the NHL, and it's like, holy shit, these guys are unbelievable.
Who picks the team and who shows up at worst on worst?
I'd be the GM for Team USA.
Who's showing up? Who's showing up, John?
Colby's looking at me like I genuinely think this is a good idea.
I think this is one of your test cases, Johnny, where you just wanted to see how we'd react before you go mainstream with it on social media.
Everyone's like,
Johnny, everybody gets a trophy at the end of it, right?
Everybody gets a medal. Everybody gets to go home happy.
Yeah, I guess we could do that.
I will entertain. Listen, the history of me is I will entertain every insane idea and find like a tiny.
I know you will. That's why I presented it to you.
That's in there, but I'm having a hard time finding that tiny little bit of something that's in there. First of all, who would watch that?
I would.
Like the whole idea is that people are going to watch this, so when they come back to the NHL, they're like, "Wow, look at the market difference. This is incredible. This is like the lockout of 20405, and we all watch a ton of American Hockey League action, and look how much better the NHL is. Wow, now we really appreciate it." But A, who's going to pick the teams? B, who's going to show up and see who's going to watch it? Watch the worst of the worst.
Let me go back and
hockey.
Jeff,
I'll dial it back in.
Let me leave us out of this conversation because we're in the middle. We're in the middle of this international hockey conversation, and this morning, an article drops about Doug Armstrong stepping down as general manager of Team Canada. And when I read that, I thought to myself, "Oh, like I didn't realize that was his position." I sort of thought, like we sort of go tournament by tournament. And obviously Bill Guerin won, so it's his seat to have. And maybe that's been the reason that Armstrong has kept the seat, because they seemingly have always won, more than not up to this point. But I guess my curiosity would lie where, like, A, who's the front runner to take over that position? Vic thought Kyle Dubas maybe. And B,
that's what I think.
Think. Why now? Like, why is he making that announcement right now? Like, the timing seems early. I don't know. I was surprised to read that story this morning, Jeff, and I feel like you could probably shed some light onto the whole thing, the whole thing.
I'll agree with Vic on this one, whether it's working as an assistant general manager with the Olympic team, whether it's his work with the World Championships, whether it's the work that he's doing with the Pittsburgh Penguins right now. I think Kyle Dubas would have to be considered a front runner. And knowing what I know about Hockey Canada under Catherine Henderson's leadership right now, is they probably want to start skewing younger with younger, newer, fresher ideas for this next generation of hockey. Like, look, the USA had the triple sweep, right? USA, like Canada's biggest rival, just had the triple sweep. So we can argue about gameplay and whether it's the only one. On the men's and women's side, Both games were close. Both games went into overtime. So you can really say, like, you know what? If you squint hard enough, you can say that it could have gone either way. Coin flip, overtime, one mistake, all of that. But like, there's gonna be cascade that happens from that. And I think that as Doug Armstrong steps down as general manager of the St. Louis Blues, he steps down as general manager of Team Canada, and he goes into the summer, clean, without anything on his business card. Whether that means complete retirement, whether that means he'll entertain an offer for another NHL team, don't know. But I think as far as like the next person to step into that spot, Kyle Dubas has always answered when Hockey Canada called, and that means a lot to them. That means a lot to them as far as like continuousness and seriousness of every program at every single tournament. They look at it as one big chain. And if you say, and again, we can argue about whether this is sane or not, but if you say no along that line, you can suffer consequences for it somewhere down the line. We've seen that most specifically at the junior hockey level, and it's bit Team Canada on the ass. But we have also seen it before at the senior men's level as well. So maybe not too surprised. The timing might be interesting too. Why now as opposed to later? I'm sure this is just Hockey Canada wants to start to roll up their sleeves and start to look for another general manager as soon as possible. But I could see Kyle Dubas leading the whole thing. Absolutely. I'll give Vic the win on this one. I think Vic's right about this one. That to me would be the front runner.
I think you're muted, Colby.
Can't hear.
I guess I'll transition this, but Jeff, what did you make of Edmonton, Calgary, and Prague being named the host cities? Obviously, Colby and I have talked about how we think all these tournaments, or most of these tournaments, should be played in Canada. There's nothing like international tournaments being played in Canada. Prague is a cool one to throw in the mix, though.
Prague's awesome. Cobblestone streets, beautiful, historic hockey nation. And we're seeing the rise of Czech hockey again at a lot of different levels. I'm going to be honest with you. I was, let me take off my Canada hat for a second. I was surprised and a little bit disappointed. My whole professional career, when I started in like 94, I have always maintained that for the growth of hockey, for the good of hockey, the place to grow it is still in the United States. That's still a place where this thing needs to grow. Canada is Canada. The growth area is on the women's side of the puck. That's the major growth area for hockey in Canada. It's on the women's side. And like I always said, like, you're not going to make one more hockey fan by putting another hockey team in Canada. Like, you're not.
It's true. Yeah.
But there's still opportunity in the United States. And I would always say, for the good of the game, the United States needs to start winning these major tournaments and needs to start winning Olympic medals. Like, I'm very much of the belief that, we went through that era where NHL owners were saying, no, we're not going to send the players too risky. And I said to myself, what if America was winning gold every time? Would they still say, no, we're not going to send our players? Not a chance, because it would have been such a good news story for the country and for hockey in the United States that of course they're going to send their players, because they come back with gold medals and all of a sudden your star player has a gold medal around his neck. I thought that given the momentum after the United States won gold, that the wise thing would be to capture that momentum and put this tournament in two American markets that are close to each other. USA hockey right now is so strong internationally after the triple gold. Why not try to use that momentum and build a stronger hockey base in the United States?
Process, Jeff,
that's why I thought it would be I thought it would be in the US.
Did they just
probably already down the road, Colby?
Did they just not bid enough?
I don't know the behind the scenes on this one.
Is the way that it works, is it like, I know the NCAA
Calgary Edmonton was
right? So
yeah, Calgary and Edmonton, just so everyone knows, that was a joint bid. Like they bid together. That was a joint bid. That wasn't like, we're going to go to Canada and it's going to be these two markets. That was a joint bid, those two together.
So it's just money, right? Money talks. I mean, I know, like I was saying, the NCAA tournament, you have to bid, and the best bids financially and the most money guaranteed gets picked. So I guess the U.S. cities just didn't bid enough. I mean, can't really blame.
How many times? Well, hang on though. But at the same time, like how many times have we seen the NHL just go for the quick buck, and it's penny wise and pound foolish?
Right.
Again,
That's fair.
What do you do with this momentum in the United States? With all these athletes with gold medals now, what do you do with that? Like, that's the challenge. Okay, you've been handed this gift. What are you going to do with it?
Who controls the World Cup? It's got to be a lot
more than go. This is an NHL event.
Okay.
NHL and NHL Players Association.
So then, so they have a lot more control over it from a TV perspective, from an advertising perspective. So you're going to go play in Europe, which throws a wrench into your times. I mean, I get it. It's only 6 hours, right? Maybe Prague is 7 hours, depending on the time of year. I know at some time during the year that you have that one. We do daylight savings and they don't, so it changes from 6 to 7 hours. It does strike me as a little bit of a miss here. Like, why not say to Boston? Why not say to an emerging market, New York? Even like you could. I mean, the World Cup did great in Philly in '96. I went to some of those games; they were sold out. I mean, the Core State Center, there was not an empty seat for Canada, Sweden. I remember being there as like a
great tournament.
I don't know, 7 or 8 year old kid.
Why not Florida? People would travel. People would go.
Listen, the Frozen Four goes to Tampa every a couple of years.
And people go.
It is jammed. There's not an empty seat in the house. Everybody travels down there. Everybody's in a great mood. That's not a bad call, Johnny.
Here's the other thing. I wondered about this. I was talking with Wyshynski about this on the sheet yesterday. I wonder if this was because, listen, this is replacing All-Star Weekend. I wonder if this. And I'm not trying to be insulting. This is just the reality of the situation. I wonder if this is a cookie for Edmonton and Calgary because they're not going to get things like the All-Star game.
Oh,
because
I thought you were going to say the cup.
Players, no. That would be insulting. Here you go, Canada. You're not going to get a cup, but you're going to get the World Cup. How about that?
Yeah.
No, I think it's because, listen, players don't want to go where it's cold for All-Star Weekend, right?
Yeah,
I wonder how much part of this is like, this is a cookie for those markets because, Winnipeg's in the same boat. Like, players are going to chafe at the idea of going there. That's why they're looking, and they've entertained the idea of doing like a rotation of Vegas, Dallas, Florida, Tampa for things like All-Star Weekend because it's sunny, take the kids. It's a little bit more enticing to get players to go as opposed to go somewhere cold for All-Star Weekend. I wonder if that's a part of this as well.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point. Colby, any other things on World Cup of Hockey, international players? Should we move into?
Can I make one point?
Can I make one point? Yeah, please do.
Can I make one point about Prague? I'm really glad they're doing this. I'm really glad that Prague is involved, and I know that it's going to make things a little bit awkward and it's going to make things tricky. But for the first time in a long time, like I can recall getting pro formas from this would have been 1991 or 1992. I got a collection of pro formas that was sent to me with the outlines of how the NHL, this is pre-Gary Bettman, so this would have been John Ziegler, investigating how to do a European NHL. And it was like a lot of markets that you would expect, your Stockholms and your Helsinkis, but it was also like Milan and London. And like the NHL has always tried to figure out a way, how do we get deeper into Europe, considering so many players start their youth hockey there and then graduate into the NHL? How do we capitalize on that more? And whether it is, having a European side of the NHL Players Tour, whether it is opening an office in Zurich, whether it is enhancing the global series and putting more of a premium on it, as opposed to just doing a collection of, one and dones. Hey, we're going to China for, Boston, Calgary. Hey, we're going to drag the Los Angeles Kings to Australia and we're going to play one game and then punt. Instead of the one and dones, there seems to now be more of a vision for a long-term understanding of how Europe is going to factor in to what the NHL does. I've always maintained, I think a lot of us have, that there's still a gold mine there for the NHL. Don Ferry used to always talk about how international hockey was the way to bring in more money for the players, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just glad that they're finally taking a long view and trying to make sure that Europe is involved in a lot of decisions that they make. End of some
No, good point. Good point. Before we do wrap things up and bring on JVR, Jeff, I did just want to bring up Connor McDavid's comments about the NHL Department of Player Safety. And this morning, George Parros actually spoke. And I want to read this quote that friend of the show, Eric Engels, put out there and ask your opinion on it. So George Parros responded to Connor McDavid's comments by saying this: "We sweat over these decisions and pour over these decisions every night, all season long. We have a process in place that's consistent, and we have a team that works for me and together with me that evaluates all these plays. A very experienced team, a veteran team, guys that have been there since the beginning of the department, not to mention all former players that have a large set of experiences playing NHL games, accolades. Some of the best guys that have played the game work for this department, help make decisions. So our process, I feel very confident in. We've got great guys who make these decisions, and I think the players should be confident in this team to do so." That's a whole lot of nothing to me. I don't know what you make of it, but I guess it's good to see George Parros speaking today.
Yeah, I think what Parros is just saying, like, look, our process is consistent. We could quit. Like, I again, like, everybody's going to have an opinion. I think the Gudas suspension was a little bit light, but not like egregious. I would have thrown like 7 at him. Okay, like 7 games. But like, so we're talking about the difference of a couple of games here. If you look through the suspendable, history of the Department of Player Safety under George Parros, I think the main criticism is it's the suspensions are too light. But that doesn't come from George Parros. That comes from a couple of places. One, that comes from the managers. And if the managers wanted to turn up the heat, they could. They could turn up the heat tomorrow if they wanted. Remember when Brendan Shanahan was throwing double digits at everybody? And Rafi Torres got bargained down, but it was 21 games for the hit on Hossa. Like, and there was I remember Brendan Smith in the preseason. I think he got like 10 games for a hit too. And the managers went, whoa. There's an element of this porridge is too hot and this porridge is too cold, and what everyone's trying to do is find the sweet spot here. But the managers could turn up the heat. And the other thing that I thought of too, and this is where I kind of thought, and I understand why he didn't, and this is where I'll go to Connor McDavid's quote. The follow-up should have been, have you talked to Marty Walsh about this? Because the NHL Players Association just signed a collective bargaining agreement with the NHL where these types of negotiations go on. Were you involved in those? Did you have a voice in them? What did you sit at the table? Nobody wants to do the boring stuff, Johnny. Nobody wants to do the boring stuff, but then they want to complain about something they don't like that they chose not to have a hand in. The window to do all this just closed. You go look at the CBA, right? It's all in there about why these things happen. Now, you can change it. All the managers would have to get together. The next phone call would have to be to Marty Walsh to say, we're not happy with this. And then Marty Walsh calls his counterpart of the NHL and Gary Bettman and says, hey, we got some of our key guys that don't like the way the suspensions are being handled right now. And Bettman would say, okay, happy to have that conversation. Here's one of the issues that we're having a hard time with. And then it becomes a negotiation all over again. Time to bring all of this up closed when the players signed off on the latest CBA. The follow-up question to Connor McDavid in that room should have been, have you called Marty Walsh about this?
I wonder, Jeff, too. I mean, for me, the first thing that came to mind was first we heard from an agent, and then we heard from the agent's client, who also represents
that's part of it.
You can't tell me Judd Moldover or Moldaver, however you pronounce it, didn't say to McDavid, you need to speak up. You're the face of the National Hockey League. I mean, that's how it smelled to me, at least. Like, the agent, you're not going to tell the guy you have to do it, but like I would think he would have egged him on a little bit for that.
I think that there was a conversation. Now, this is just so all of your viewers and listeners know, like, Judd Moldaver is an agent for a group called The Team, formerly Wasserman. And he represents, among other players, both Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid. So I'm sure, well, certainly all the agents spoke after the Gudas suspension, and I'm sure all the players would have had conversations too, and I'm sure Moldaver would have had conversations with Connor McDavid, who at various times himself, let's not forget too, has felt that maybe the Department of Player Safety hasn't handled, aggression against him in a suitable way too. To say nothing of the bigger question, and this was to a tricky area, which is protecting stars, and how do you do it in a game that's as violent as hockey is. But I think that is a point, Colby, that I don't think should be lost on anybody. These, like Matthews and McDavid, are still teammates by way of agency, not by way of club team.
Kind of a funny comment in our chat too. Oiler fan 2 says, "I pray McDavid doesn't have to deal with Gudas in the first round playoff matchup. Gudas might attempt murder." Maybe that's McDavid just trying to get a little hint out there.
First of all, here's another thing to consider. And they put this in the video too, which I thought was really smart. Radko Gudas hadn't had a suspension in 7 years. If you believe that the Department of Player Safety is for correcting behavior, Radko Gudas essentially went through an entire player's career without a suspension. 7 years without isn't that what the Department of Player Safety is for? Because if you just come back and say, so if you come back and say, hey man, it's been 7 years, he hasn't done anything, but here we go, he did something, we're ringing him up for 20, what's the message? What's the message?
I didn't realize that.
He went 7 years without a suspension. 7.
That's been lost. I have not read that or seen that pointed out anywhere, to be honest, that it's been 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah, I didn't see that
correcting behavior.
I hated the play, and I think I would have been totally fine if they did give him more games and all this. But, I also talked about, and I know this doesn't really matter, but like I've said this before, the guy's a sweetheart and a teddy bear off the ice. I mean, it's such a shame. But
good point from Sharma too, Colby. Do you count the Olympics? Because he did hurt Crosby.
that wasn't a dirty play.
Even Crosby said that was
fine. You take out Crosby, then you take out Matthews.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, real quick, because
quite the resume. Yeah.
I told Reamer we were bringing him on at 9:35, but he can wait like one extra minute here. Give us the quick Reamer trade story before he comes on.
So I love this one. So this deal was done at the draft, and there were a lot of Toronto Maple Leafs fans that made the trip. And Brian Burke, I'm not telling tales out of school. He's mentioned this on my show before. He's talked to me about this. He said, I was worried that if we announced the trade that day that we were going to get booed in the building. And so I waited until I got in the car. I had left the rink. Then I completed the trade with Paul. It would have been Paul Holmgren, I think, with the Philadelphia Flyers. But he was concerned about getting booed. I remember asking Berkey, because Luke Schenn was obviously like a really super popular player with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I said, what was it about Van Riemsdyk that you really liked? Like, what did it for you? And he said, retrievals on the power play. He said, the one thing that I'll always think about with James van Riemsdyk is he is a dog on a bone on puck retrievals to extend zone time on the power plays. He goes, he would extend our power play time, like our puck in the zone, by minute after minute after minute, and that's what we needed. Our power play was like, come in, one shot, and then we're done. He said we needed someone that could retrieve the puck, and that was James van Riemsdyk. Loved him.
That's funny.
Loved him.
Because you think of Reamer as this net front, guy who has basically took the mantle from the names, whether it was Pavelski, I know him and Pavelski were in the league together for a while, but before that, I mean, you remember Thomas Holmstrom and Johan Franzen was great around the net.
Phil Esposito, Dino Ciccarelli.
Well, now
Tim
you're
Kerr,
going
all
back
these guys.
You're going back. I'm talking about the guys we watched through our young teenage years.
Yeah.
And he kind of became that guy. But it's funny, like I always say with him, one of the most underrated parts of his game, and I've watched him closely for years, is his passing. Like he's always been a guy who could score. One year, I think he had 38 or 39 goals in Toronto. I mean, that was a big year for him, but he's always, in my opinion, been an underrated passer. Even when I played with him, there are times where you're like, how the hell did he see me? But nobody ever talked about that. So I've never really focused on his puck retrievals on the power play. And I'm not doubting Berkey. I'm sure they did their homework when they fleeced the Philadelphia Flyers on that trade. No disrespect to Schenn, but that was a fleecing. And so it's an interesting point because he's a great power play player. So listen, he spent a good part of this year on the top power play in Detroit for reasons that guys aren't willing to do what he does. Like he's willing to do what most won't.
Can I request a question before he comes on?
Yeah.
Can you guys ask him? Can you ask him where he wants point shots? Where he wants point shots?
Yeah.
Can I ask James van Riemsdyk one question and then I'll punt?
Yeah,
I'm always curious because I'm fascinated. He's one of my favorite players. I just love him.
Can we do
He's one of the most interesting guys in the NHL. Can we do 4 bucks?
I'm gonna guess his answer. Jeff. I'm gonna say to his backhand side. To his backhand side.
Hang on.
So to his backhand side, we can knock it down on his backhand. I think that's what I think he's gonna say.
Okay, hang
JVR,
on.
What do you think?
Okay, Johnny, do the intro. So I have just a quick question, and I'm gonna punt, and I'm gonna surrender their show back to him here, James.
Good to see you, by the way.
I'm always curious. What's that?
Good to see you.
Oh, good to see you too. Pleasure to be on with you. Hey, listen, real quick, for what you do, like dining out in front of the net, first of all, one of the most dangerous positions to be in the NHL. Take your health into your own hands. There's been a trend in the NHL now for a while where pucks from the point have always been along the ice. How many times have we all heard, keep it low from the point, and that's changed now. I remember when John Klingberg started with the Dallas Stars, all of a sudden he's firing top shelf and like Tyler Seguin's like ducking, like, whoa, put a leash on that puppy. And it seems now more, I remember I had this conversation actually with Shane Doan about it, about where they want point shots now. And he said, we want hip tip. Because if it's along the ice, the puck's only going to go one way and it's going to go up and the goalies can read that. We want our point shots coming in at the hip, so it can either be tipped down or it can be tipped up, and the goalie's got to guess. I'll ask this question and then I'll punt. Where do you want shots from the point coming in? On the ice or at the hip?
But speaking of the safety in front of the net, it was never more unsafe than when Dion Phaneuf was up there shooting. I will say that. A little bit of friendly fire there from him over the years. But I think that's definitely bang on. For me, it's that shot between kind of the hip and then the crossbar, just because the goalies obviously are so good at taking away the bottom half of the net now. So, again, there's more kind of chaos and more unpredictability when it can be a little bit higher. And then for me, I like it when it's maybe a couple feet outside of my body, just because, again, those are really hard for the goalies to track, and the angle that you can change becomes a little bit more drastic. So, just that, and I think combining that with shooting it across a guy's body, another aspect of the goalie having to eventually look behind you and lose the puck for that split second makes it harder. So those are kind of the things that when I'm working on my tips in front and having the D shoot some pucks for me, that's something I'm always mentioning, is try to shoot it across my body when you get the chance, and just or basically shoot it to the other side that the goalie's not looking. I mean, it seems pretty basic, but those are the two things that I'm looking for. So that's a very key detail of that.
Reams, did you hear
great
Jeff,
answer?
Did you hear him talking about Brian Burke comes on Jeff's show regularly, every week for the most part, right? That's a fair statement, right, Jeff?
Yep, every week.
They were talking about when Berkey made that trade for you and brought you to Toronto, and he told Jeff, and he's talked about this publicly, one of the biggest areas of your game and one of the biggest reasons he wanted you was your puck retrievals on the power play. I've never thought about that or heard that. Obviously, I was talking about how underrated of a passer. I mean, we've been talking about that for years. Like, you could have another 150 assists in your career if guys would have buried for you, especially in Philly. I feel like Lotz could have another 25 goals if he had some of those breakaways that you gave him. But is that something that you realized was a focal point that like managers and statistics lend their hand to, and you extend your team's power plays?
I think that's part of the role of being around the net front for sure. I mean, obviously there's that fine line of when do you try to play for the rebound, when do you try to make a pass, or when do you just try to get your stick on a puck to keep the play alive. I think that is an underrated skill for a lot of players, especially younger players now. Just that little stab on the puck to either collect it or get it to your teammate, or maybe not allow the other team to clear it. I think we scored actually our power play goal last night, where there was three of us that probably the puck was we weren't able to fully get it under control, but we were able to touch it enough so they couldn't clear it, and then we're able to get a power play goal out of it. So I think that's certainly an underrated skill for a lot of guys to have, is just if you can keep plays alive, and that there's a lot of different kind of skills that maybe are going into that, whether that's, again, reading where the puck's going to go and retrieving it, or knowing the right play to make, whether it's to shoot it, or how hard do you release a puck to a guy? Do you try to go direct? Do you try to rim it around to him in a good spot so he can get the puck with his eyes up? And I think, that's a big part of it. I think, again, usually the quickest, the fastest you can get it back to your kind of half-wall quarterback, that sets you up to have a really good power play, because those are the guys you obviously want touching the puck the most in the game and have them making the decisions when they have it. So I think that's a key part, I think, of any good power play.
Possession over position. That was the saying, right? Possession over position. The minute the puck's free on the power play, it's possession over position. Don't worry about where you're supposed to be. Just go get that thing. All right. Here come the good questions now. Colby, Johnny, return you to your show. Thanks, James.
Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Good to see you too.
Reamer, I wanted to ask you about your current line mates. I know, the lineup looks a little different. Larkin's obviously out, Kopp's out. And you're playing, I think, with Marco Kasper right now and John Leonard, a good friend of mine. But there's been a lot of conversation, and I'm going to make this like a general question instead of like about you and the Red Wings, and it's not about the Rangers. I'm just using the Rangers as an example. It's because Artemi Panarin, he leaves, and there's been a lot of talk about young guys deferring to a guy like that and deferring to guys, and how young guys tend to defer to the veterans. And you're playing now with two guys who aren't nearly as experienced in the NHL as you are. And I know you probably won't answer this, without being very modest and humble, but I'm sure at times they would defer to you. But do you remember like being the young guy and just kind of having that like maybe inside voice putting pressure on you to defer to an older, more established player? Is that something that is, human nature in the NHL?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting part of it. I think for me, when I came up, my first line mate was Claude Giroux, and obviously we're the same age, so that's a little bit different than playing with a guy who's maybe a little bit more of an established superstar right away. I mean, I was playing a couple shifts there too, a couple games with like Jeff Carter and Mike Richards. So yeah, there is that aspect for sure. At that time, I think Carts had scored like 40 goals a few years in a row. So you wanted to. I knew at that point he was obviously going to be the guy that things were going to run through in a way, but at the same time, you need to do what you do and create some space for him. So it's that fine line of getting guys the puck that are again at that level, I guess, and then but again at the same time you want to play your game and be able to play off each other too. So there is that a little bit, but I think usually. Especially now, there's so much communication with guys, and that's a key thing to do, is just talk through different plays and situations, and have that be kind of a two-way street, so that you have that chemistry and you're able to go out there and execute at a high level.
I saw guys when I was between the benches, especially in Chicago, guys really always deferred to Kane. I mean, that's it's hard not to when you have one of the GOATs and one of the greatest. And just watching the game last night, like I still get the chills when Kane scores, because he loves scoring to the point where it looks like it's the first goal he's ever scored in his career. And I'm curious from the bench's standpoint. Like I know for him, he's had some injuries this year. There's been a little bit of up and down. There was talk, does he make the Olympic team just based on his reputation? Like he's just, there's been a lot of conversations about him this year. When you start to see him producing at this point of the year, when you guys are fighting to maintain your playoff spot, there's obviously been some injuries to some key players. The deadline, you went out and got a great defenseman, so Stevie Y did bring some ammunition and some help in for you. But when he goes off and gets two, does that give the bench like extra life? Are you guys looking at each other on the bench like, here goes showtime, like, he's about to go off? I mean, I'm curious what that does more than just adds to the scoreboard.
Yeah, I think you said it, just like the passion and the juice he has to play the game. And I mean, he's in year 19 now and has scored over 500 goals. But yeah, he's still fired up, still wants to win. Still, I sit next to him on the plane and we play cards. But when we get on the plane, he's right there watching his shifts after every game. So it's hard not to like. That's infectious for how much he loves the game and how well he wants to do. And I think that's so great for not only younger players, but everyone to be around to see that. I mean, he's accomplished so much in his career, and that experience he has is invaluable, especially to our team right now with kind of the stretch run that we're on and how close everything is. So, yeah, I think he's definitely a guy in that way that kind of brings a lot of life to our team and it contributes not only with his kind of on-ice stuff, but just kind of what he brings to the table otherwise.
What is the mood of the locker room right now? Like, obviously Larkin's out, it's a big loss for you guys, and things haven't necessarily clicked as well as you wanted to post break as it was leading into break. I remember like you guys were on fire kind of going into the break, and we maybe said it could have been a bad time. And the comfort you had in the playoff race is now, you're only like 3 points ahead of like Columbus. Like, it's getting tighter and tighter, but does that make it more fun now, or is it more nerve-wracking? Like, you're a guy who's been competing in the playoffs for north of a decade. Like, where are you with this playoff race right now?
Yeah, I think for us, like for the most part, we've been relatively healthy all year. So it definitely feels like a little bit of bad luck where you get a few key guys all hurt at the same time. But again, that's one of those things that every team deals with, and the good teams are able to just find a way to win. So, like you said, these are the most fun games to play in. I mean, this is why you play right now, right? It's every game means so much. The margins are so close. We have teams chasing us down for the playoffs with the spot that we're in right now, and we're going to be playing all those teams that we're kind of jockeying with in the next couple weeks here. So, yeah, this is why you play. This is the most fun time of the year, and the building gets a little bit of extra kind of electricity in it, and the games get a little bit more kind of highly contested, and all the little details become that much more important. So yeah, this is the most fun time of the year, and this is one you got to really enjoy the process and enjoy these moments, because these are the games that when you kind of look back on your career, these are the games that you really miss playing in.
And how do you guys balance the scoreboard watching, standings watch versus, hey, we are currently in a spot, so we need to basically control our own destination, our own destiny. Not everybody gets to control their own destiny this time of year. You do if you guys continue to win. But look, I know how that goes. You start looking to see what the other teams did. Did Columbus win tonight? Checking the box scores pretty quickly right after a game or on an off night. Like, what's the balance that you strike with that, especially with these younger guys that Johnny has alluded to? Like, you're an elder statesman, and no Larkin. That means even more leadership. This is why they brought you here, not just to produce, but to be a leader. I mean, you've been that way in every locker room for God knows how long, right? So, what is that balance with this team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's the human element of it, of seeing where everyone else is around you. But like you said, like, we're in a great spot where we control our own destiny. And like I just mentioned, we play a lot of the teams that we're kind of jockeying for position with. So that just makes those games even that much bigger for us. And yeah, it's nice to be in a position where, again, you got to just go handle your business, and you don't have to necessarily rely on other teams to slip or help from different teams down the stretch. And we're in a good spot that way, where, again, we're playing all the teams we're competing with, and we're in a spot right now where we hold the playoff position. So now it's up to us to just go execute and go finish things out and do what we need to do.
Reamer, I want to ask you about two different teams if I can, and I don't know if it's like tough to answer this one, because you played Colorado in a home and home before the break, and then you played Dallas, a couple games ago here after the break. But these are two teams, and we were talking about Dallas a little bit yesterday at how good they've been, especially like in between that pre-break, post-break. They've won like 10 games in a row, 11 games in a row. I know they lost last night, but when you play against Dallas and Colorado, do you feel like they are closer together than they are far? Like, I feel like Dallas isn't getting enough credit as Colorado is. Like, I think most people, including us, have already considered Colorado to be the Stanley Cup favorite because of what they are on paper. But Dallas is like, they've been so fucking good all year long and not getting nearly the love that Colorado has. So I'm curious, just for you who's played against both of them recently, if you see a drastic difference between the two teams at all.
Yeah, that's a good question. We obviously just played the Stars too. They were missing a few guys, but yeah, you could just tell like they're a veteran team who's had success and had some good runs the last few years with the way they play, and there seems to be no sort of panic in their game, and just they take care of the little details on the ice and make it tough on you. So yeah, they're play that way, and then obviously a team like Colorado too, where again similarly where they have a lot of firepower too, added a bunch of different pieces at the deadline now, so a little bit different mix that they have. But yeah, I think two teams, they've been kind of right at that class of the league for the last few years, played each other in the playoffs, and it seems like, again, like those are two teams where they're, again, that rivalry that they kind of have and how tight that division is, especially at the top, is makes it fun for hockey and kind of fun to watch. And just I remember watching some of those playoff, both of their different sort of series the last couple of years, and just again, just the level that they're at is pretty impressive.
Reams, I want to kind of jump around with you a little bit about some of the things going on around the league. I mean, we were talking about the hit on Austin Matthews. Both those guys were your teammates. I was talking about how unfortunate it is with a guy like Radko, who has this reputation that, he's deservedly so on the ice. They call him the butcher, but I was also first one to call out that he's just this, this sweet guy off the ice who's a great parent, and we were neighbors in Waterfront Square, so I spent so much time with him over the years, and it's awful to see the outcome of a play like that. Connor McDavid speaks out and says the process for player safety needs to be looked at. Obviously, Connor McDavid also represented by the same agent that Austin Matthews is represented by, and you may be represented by, now that I'm saying it out loud. I think when you made your switch, that's where you went. So you can see some of the connection points there. What are your thoughts on McDavid's comments? Like, is that something you'd like to see looked at and talked about a little bit? Because right now we've kind of just had this one process. It's been the process forever. I personally don't think there's a good way to do this. I just think no matter what, everybody's always going to be angry at this. But do you think this is a process that needs to just be revisited and talked about, and maybe there needs to be more transparency behind these decisions and whatnot? Or do you feel like this is just a lose-lose situation no matter who's in charge?
Yeah, you know what? It is a tough thing because best case scenario, no matter what happens, you're probably going to have 50% of people that hate your decision no matter what. So that's kind of already going to be a low success rate as far as that goes. So I don't know. I feel like for the way the process is now, and it's tough. It's a tough job. It's a thankless job for sure. I don't know. There's always things I feel like that maybe can be revisited to see just if there's ways to do things better and maybe more transparent. And but you know what, like we just said before, it is one of those things that it is tough, because usually when these plays happen, you have people on the one side or the other, and at best case scenario, you're going to have half of them. Maybe you're going to have both people upset. It's very rare that everyone's kind of happy going into these scenarios and situations, and things happen fast and quick out there too, and it's obviously sometimes tough to know the intent of what's happening. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the more transparent the process can be, and the more understanding there is all around, I think it just will at least people can understand what's going into the decisions, and maybe that's, I don't know if that's more about the process or if there can be maybe more education about it so people understand what's going into the decisions. But again, a lot of these plays are happening where it's a very emotional thing too. Like there's injuries and things like that. So there's lots of things that I feel like aspects that go into it that make it a very hard process to manage. So I don't know if I really have a good answer for how to make everyone happy, but usually around these plays, it's like I mentioned before, best case scenario is you're going to have half the people think you're an idiot no matter what. So it's a hard thing.
Do you guys remember, were people this angry when Brendan Shanahan, like I've always said this, so I've had an opportunity to get to know George Parros over the years, and this isn't going to be a popular comment, but I find the guy to be really smart. I mean, every conversation I've ever had with him, even when it comes to these suspensions and things, he always gives me a very reasonable, well thought out, here's why we did what we did. Now, I don't always walk away agreeing with him, but I always walk away respecting the thoroughness and all the different thought points that they go through with this. But I can't remember how people felt about Brendan Shanahan when he was in charge of this. Like, was it the same outrage?
I feel like it's kind of always been a similar sort of thing. Like I mentioned, like it's emotional things. Like you're going to have either a guy getting hurt and the team's going to be missing a player for that reason. And then clearly on the other end of it, like if you get a guy suspended, like and a team is missing that player too, like it's an emotional thing. And especially again, as you get later in the year when there's the playoff implications start to happen and things like that. So it's a hard thing for sure. So I don't pretend to have any solutions for it, but I don't know. Again, it's one of those things when usually when there's higher profile things that happen, it maybe, I don't know, it's never a bad thing. I feel like to maybe just revisit the process and see if there's things to clean up in it and make the process a little bit better. But again, at the end of the day, like we just said, it's like it's not the best case scenario. You're going to have maybe half the people happy with you, half the fan base happy, one not. So it's a tough thing for sure.
Feel free to tell me to fuck off. I probably should have looked this up while you were talking, Reamer. But have you ever been suspended or fined? Like, did you ever get a hearing or anything? I feel like you're too nice of a guy.
I actually no. You know what? I have one fine in my career.
Okay, what'd you do?
And actually, it was a play in when I was in Philly. We're going in for a puck in the corner. It was me and Alec Martinez, and he kind of bumped me off balance. So I was like falling down, and my stick swung around, and I caught him like pretty much right in the jaw. So I don't know if I lost. We had the same agent forever. So
no way.
I knew him beforehand, so I felt pretty bad. I can't remember if he ended up losing any teeth, but I definitely that was an unfortunate accident.
Right after or what?
I'm like, geez, like hopefully that wasn't too bad, but I can't remember if he said he lost any teeth or anything. But it was one of those things where I kind of lost my balance and was falling down, and my stick like helicoptered and caught him. So I got a little $5,000 fine, I think it was, for that. So
were you expecting it?
Throw that one on the board, Colby.
Were you expecting the fine?
Not necessarily, just because again it was one of those plays where I know it was definitely a dangerous play, but I was more like, again, I thought I was falling down, and I actually haven't seen the clip in a few years now, so maybe you guys can be the judge for next time we chat. If you can,
I'm sure Vic's looking for
somewhere,
it.
but
I want to.
But yeah, I definitely felt bad about it.
I want to ask our chat because again, we're all sitting here and we're all very critical, and that's fine and fair. Listen, you want to be in the spotlight, you want a big job, like you want to be in pro sports, you're going to get criticized. Who would you all put in charge of player
Wait, Colby,
safety?
I think Vic's got it.
Okay, that's fine. He can run it, but I'm asking the chat a question.
Okay, yeah.
Who would you put in player safety? Who do you want to be in charge? Because I do agree with Reamer. You're starting at 50%. You don't even get to start at 100%. And then the other pushback that I want to give the chat on this is that it's like you guys are saying the only person that thinks Parros is doing a good job is Gary Bettman. If the owners and the GMs were completely against the work that George Parros was doing, he wouldn't still have that job. So, yes, I get it. Twitter's angry. An agent right now is angry. A fan base is angry. But, you got to come up with a solution. You can't just yell and say, we hate it, we hate it. who do you put in that role? Okay, some of the names. Chris Pronger is a great name. Why would Chris Pronger take that job? And like, why? I mean, like, I would bet there's no chance he would say yes to that. Didn't you play with Pronger in Philly, Reamer?
I wasn't. I think he was in that department for a little bit too, when he was just retiring. So I think he was doing some stuff within that. So yeah, he's been in the mix there in the past. I don't think he was like the final head decision maker, but I think he was on the staff there, kind of throwing in his feedback, because obviously he had some tricks of the trade from when he was playing, so he knew exactly what guys were doing.
Tricks of the trade is a real nice way to put it.
Yeah.
I might put some more work on Vic's plate, but like while we're talking about it, there was a really controversial hit with Trevor in the playoffs 2 years ago with Matt Rempe. Do you remember that hit where Trevor? I think he even said, like, after the fact, though. I know Caps fans wanted Rempe suspended for the rest of the series, but I think Trevor said something about
that was a terrible hit.
No, but Trevor said something about like doing a shoulder check or something. I don't know if he did a shoulder check. Like, do you remember what he said after that?
I remember that play. Yeah. You know what? That's first of all, like, that's a guy you just got to know when he's on the ice, and I know my brother would say that too. So that's again the math of when you're playing here is a little different when
that's so dirty. I have a huge. That is a disgustingly dirty hit, Johnny. Like, he should have been out in the playoffs. That was
what? It's definitely.
I loved it in the moment.
Probably a little bit late. It's a little bit late on that one, but
blindside.
Yeah, I know Trevor would say too. Like, I know Trevor would say too. Knowing who's on the ice is a big sort of thing. So. I know that's, but no, that's definitely probably a touch late.
Touch late, touch late.
Definitely looks worse now than it did 2 years ago.
That's a fair way to put it. But,
doesn't look good in slow motion either. I could say that.
No. Well, they never do. I always say nothing looks good in slow motion. I mean, you could take a pretty harmless looking hit and make it look like Murderer's Row in slow motion. Reams, I know we kept you for a while today. We appreciate it. It's been a minute since we were able to catch up with you. I know you guys have a pretty important stretch here over the next couple of games, so we'll be keeping an eye on the wing wheel here to see if you guys can continue to push forward and wait for a little bit of reinforcements. We will definitely try to get you on at least one or two more times before playoffs. Obviously, once that starts, it gets a little more difficult, but as always, we appreciate your time. I know we went in some different directions today. I actually really thought that was a great question by Jeff. I wanted to hear your answer on that. I mean, I wanted to know what you were going to say when he asked you that question. So I thought that was a really interesting question and sparks really good debate.
I actually didn't know that story either. That I know he said Burke was talking about that. But yeah, I didn't know that story. He never. I'm still keep in touch with Burke. He's great, and I'll obviously forever be grateful for him for giving me that opportunity he did in Toronto, and how that kind of really springboarded my career. But no, he had never mentioned that was like a key of why, or one of the things I guess he was thinking of when they brought me to Toronto. So
yeah,
Colby, why don't you make the drive down April 4th? Rangers Red Wings, 12:30 in the afternoon.
Tuddy T says, I booed you in Philly. Sorry, pal. It's just a business. He says that Tuddy T is an angry Flyers fan. He's here every day, so we love him. And then we've got Willie Stiles in our chat, Reamer, who's been asking me to ask you for an autograph. So we just got to get it. Send it to the Red. What do people do? They send it to the Red Wings front office and they just put your name on it, right? Isn't that kind of what
I believe do? So? Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Yeah, so they'll take care of it if it gets sent to the right place. And
Willie, send it to the Red Wings front office. It'll get to Reamer. Put something about Morning Cuppa Hockey on the envelope. That way he knows he absolutely has to sign it for you. He will do it for you. He will personalize it. He'll probably throw a $100 bill in it. He's such a good guy. So just send it to the new Joe Louis Arena there. I know that's not what it's called, but just send it his way and he'll take care of it for you. Don't worry, little Willie. Little Willie's a Minnesota guy. He says he grew up in the same neighborhood as your wife. So he's a big JVR guy.
All right, love it.
So
thanks, Reamer. Appreciate it.
We'll see you soon. All right.
See you in 2 weeks.
Guys. See ya.
All righty. Where to now, or should we just wrap up the show? Anything else you wanted to talk about this morning? I mean, the Panarin stuff yesterday, I don't know if you caught it. It was great. Like, he was awesome. And what are you smiling about?
I'm laughing at, I think, was it David Pagnotta who posted something on social media?
Oh, yeah, that was so good.
Like me and Panarin wondering what the hell this idiot's talking about or something when you posted the question or whatever. That was DP, right?
Yeah, he said, like, me and Artemi Panarin wondering what the fuck Jonny Lazarus is talking about. And it was just like them with a blank stare, but it was good stuff. But I just thought it was really cool that Artemi Panarin like spoke on camera yesterday. I know I got a lot of questions from Rangers fans, and I answered one of them on Twitter because Panarin didn't really do anything on camera in his 7 years here, just because, the English language, and some guys aren't comfortable doing it when the pressure's on. So, he told the reporters yesterday, we're obviously pretty, like, I'm not going to say close, like, we're not all friends, but like, we have a good working relationship with him. And over the last 3 years, I've gotten to know Panarin decently well, just from the locker room interactions. And he said he wanted to be on camera for the New York media and for Rangers fans because, he was very emotional yesterday. And it was really cool to see him go out on the ice after the fact, after the game, and take pictures with a group of Ranger fans. But it was interesting just to hear his perspective on the whole thing and the trade, and talk to him, firsthand after everything went down. But it was a great night at MSG last night. And, the Kings right now are right in it. They're tied with Seattle. They're on the outside. They're under the line, but they're in the playoff race, even though they looked like shit coming out of the break. So they're a team to watch out for here, Colby, as we head down to the end of the season.
If you had to make a bet before we do get into Bet 365, would you bet that the Red Wings are a playoff team this year? Like, do you have
the Red Wings? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You have them in? I know that's
Yeah.
not, but I'm just saying in general, like, just to finish the conversation about rings, like, do you have them in?
Yeah, I do. I don't think Ottawa or Philly gets in.
No, Philly's not going to get in. Unfortunately, they're going to kind of.
I would actually. I think Montreal would drop over Detroit. I could see Montreal dropping just because goaltending.
Ooh, that would not be good for St. Louis. I don't know, though. Like, you never know, though. Between Dubas and Fowler, like, I feel like you have a strong enough duo that you can work your way in. I mean, I know they lost the other day. Oh, jeez. Choking. Go ahead, Johnny.
Well, Detroit's got Montreal on Thursday. The Canadiens, who do they play tonight? I think they play tonight as well. Montreal plays against Boston tonight. That's a huge game. So we do have a great slate tonight in the NHL. I think there's 9 games. Yeah, we got Carolina and Columbus as well. That's another good game. Minnesota, Chicago's not a great game. But Winnipeg, Nashville, also a big game for playoff implications. San Jose and Edmonton. Tonight's a really, really good slate of hockey. Even the Kraken Lightning game is pretty big too, because the Lightning and Buffalo are battling for that first spot in the Atlantic. Before we do before we do Bet 365 though, Colby, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Out West. Spring is finally here, even though the weather is changing every day. One day it's 60 degrees, the next day it's 30, depending on where you live. But if you're looking to refresh your closet, you got to check out Out West. Born in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Out West is built for the people who actually keep the world turning, the small town grinders, the early risers, and the ones who don't need the spotlight to get after it. Their gear blends premium performance fabrics with everyday comfort. So when you're hitting the golf course, the road, or just enjoying a warm spring day, you are covered from lightweight polos to insanely comfortable performance hoodies. Out West proves you don't need a luxury price tag to get luxury quality this spring. Upgrade your rotation and see what the hype is about. Check them out at outwest.us and use code CUPPA, CUPPA, in all caps for 25% off your first order. That's right. We upped it to 25%. And remember, every game needs an outlaw. Which game are you going to be glued in on tonight out of this slate? If you want
First
me to repeat
off,
the
make
game,
sure you hit the like. Make sure you hit the like button. Our likes are low. Our views were pretty high today, but our likes are low. So make sure we hit that like button if you are still here and you're still with us. I was commenting on that game last night between the Devils and Boston.
Boston.
I thought that was a great overtime. It ends with 6 seconds left. Jack Hughes. He stayed on the ice for half of overtime, and then Mason Lohrei had like an incredible 3-minute shift in overtime. He made like 3 good defensive plays, 2 blocks. I was actually really impressed with with Mason Lohrei in overtime last night. But then, the Devils just made a play at the end and took advantage of a. But I'll tell you, look, Charlie McAvoy can do no wrong. I love Charlie McAvoy, but he had a tough game, couple of tough plays that ended up with pucks in the back of the net for his team. So I'm sure he'll want to rebound for that game tonight. They play back to back, but you asked me which game will I have my eyes glued to tonight?
Yeah, I didn't say Buffalo or Vegas too. That's a great game also.
I mean, look, anytime Boston and Montreal play, I have this sort of pull. I wonder if Sasha Boisvert is going to play for the Blackhawks tonight. I don't think he can, though, maybe because of visa issues. I don't think he can play. I'm really interested to see what he looks like in an NHL uniform. Is it going to be a continuation of what he did this year, or is he just flipping a switch? I have no idea. I think Sharks.
Would he not have a visa though? Would he not have a visa if
different type of visa?
NIL?
It's a different. It goes from a student visa to a green, whatever the working visa would be. I don't know what the actual names of it is. So he probably can't play. I probably won't see any of those 10 p.m. puck drops, although Sabres Golden Knights would be a good one. But I will definitely I'll want to see Celebrini trying to go head-to-head against McDavid.
Yeah.
I mean, that, and not to mention with with Connor Ingram being named starter, now that, to me, that whole situation gets a little bit more interesting. Because what happens now if he plays a couple of iffy games in a row? What do you do? I think the Islanders, they need to take care of business against the Maple Leafs. These are the types of games you have to win. The Maple Leafs are basically now just playing with house money. They know everybody's probably going. They're without their captain. Guys are going to get more opportunities than they normally do. The Blue Jackets, they'll want to continue to get back on the right track. I think they dropped one either last night or the night before. After a pretty impressive streak without many losses. So yeah, I don't know. I'll probably start with Bruins Canadians though, for at least I'd say the first half of that game. You know me, I'm not as big of a bouncer when it comes to a big game night as you are. I like to kind of lock in on one game. So probably where I'll spend a majority of the early part of the night until Sharks Oilers. What about you?
I'll probably focus in on Sharks Oilers. I'm actually hopping on the ice early tonight. I'm getting into a new, one of my friends, Sam Sternshine, who played at Penn State and Boston College, a little bit of pro too.
I remember doing his game. Yeah.
He's doing this on ice training company, so he needs some help. So every Tuesday night I'll be on the ice, helping out kids, training kids, pretty elite kids too, like AAA players. He skates with some of the pro guys in the summer. So I'm trying to get back on the ice a little bit more and start coaching a little bit, Colby. I'm following in your footsteps again. Everything you do in your career, I just do.
In my footsteps.
I'm excited.
Wait, can we talk about that whole Wittenbach thing yesterday? That Ethan Wittenbach tweet, and how stupid that whole thing is.
Yeah,
and that got dumber and dumber as that guy then said, Quinnipiac has been known for stashing guys in the BCHL and not having them play in the best league in the USHL because they were worried that their players were going to get poached. Wake up. The Quinnipiac has become a national powerhouse of a team. They have NIL. They have unbelievable facilities. They have
top 10 every year.
One of the best head coaches, assistant coaches, and strength coaches in all of college hockey. There's a reason Pecknold has done World Juniors. Their strength coach is unbelievable, right? Patel is his last name. The guy is a brain scientist, okay? They've been turning out NHL players year after year, every year for the last 5 or 6 years. I'm watching Clifton play last night laughing as he's dropping.
Colin Graff. Zach Metza.
Graff's game. I mean, the reason a lot of these Quinnipiac kids don't play in the USHL is because Rand Pecknold has been known to go out and find good players, and I'll give Joe Dumais a lot of credit here too, and turn them into great players, okay? Take good college players and help them become NHLers. rather than going and getting the slam dunk, right? And the top talent. They build a culture. I will say,
and they don't want the one and done. They don't want the one and done.
I get defensive when I see slander against the Quinnipiac Bobcat program. I mean, they've won a national championship in the last 5 years. Okay, BU and BC have not. Okay, they're in the tournament every year, every single year. If you look over the last 10 or 15 years, I guarantee you wins. I bet you they're in the top 3 to 4 in wins in the NCAA tournament. Overall wins in the NCAA in the last 15 seasons. Okay,
I agree.
Like, they have a thriving NIL program. They just don't talk about it. They don't throw 700,000 or 800,000 at anyone, right? But so I seeing that tweet made me think, like, this guy's an idiot and just looking for attention. He got his attention, but everybody thinks that guy is a total clown now for tweeting that about Wittenbach. And my response to that was, when does a star player leave Quinnipiac? Like, when has that ever happened? It doesn't happen. They don't lose high-end young players to the portal. They're not one of those programs. So I was like, what am I reading when I saw that whole thing? That was dumb by that Western Hockey League scout or whatever that guy's Twitter handle was. That's so... Everyone's a scout, like, give me a fucking break. So
to clarify everything too, like I tweeted it too to debunk it right away. I think everyone knows it's pretty well documented now that I'm very tight with Wittenbach and his agents and whatnot. Like, he's either staying at Quinnipiac or signing. Like, that's it. He's not entertaining the transfer portal. Is it the Puck Agency? I think that's what they're called. Like John Ozzie Tutu, if you know him.
Got it. Yeah, he seems to be getting a lot of good kids from that area. Hagens is his
studs from Long Island.
I'm trying to. Yeah, he
Bussy.
Seems to be. I played against him when we were kids. He was on the Long Island Royals. I mean, you can't forget the last name Ozzie Tutu. Like, and he was a good player to be. I mean, when we were like young hockey players, he was a very, very good player. He had a running mate on those Long Island Royal teams that. His name was the last name was Stone. They were really, really good youth hockey players. So, that whole thing, I personally don't think Wittenbach should sign. I think the playoffs against Clarkson, it shows like, hey, like the next level of big, heavy hockey, like Clarkson plays is probably a reason for him to spend one more year. Sam Lipkin, in my opinion, left a little premature. He did 2 years, I believe, not one. And then he signed. But I think, again, not my career, whatever.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him come back for his sophomore year and tear it up again. Just continue to develop his game away from the puck, almost like Colin Graff did. And then go and make sure you go right to the NHL and you don't end up playing for the Wranglers. And no disrespect to the AHL, my whole career was in that league.
Well, plus that new arena too. Like, what's the rush, right?
Yeah,
like,
skip the American League if you can. Spend that extra year in college getting better, and then go to the National Hockey League after that. So, and I also listen. I want to see Wittenbach make noise in the NCAA tournament. I really do. I mean, we see these guys that have big regular seasons, and I'm not just talking about him. Like, you don't want to see those guys get silenced. I want to see Hagens get to the tournament this year. Like, I want to see Hagens, if he's truly ready to go play for, if he's truly ready to go help the Bruins, and maybe he is, I want to see you come into the Hockey East tournament and be the best damn player and drag Boston College and Dean Letourneau as well. Those two players need to drag their team into the NCAA tournament right now. And that's what I want to see. And if Hagens does that and he can go on a nice run and have a couple of wins, you know what? You're ready. Go. Do it. Same for Letourneau. But I do want to see you do that in the biggest time of the year in the NCAA tournament before I'm like, okay, yeah, you should go.
100%.
So that'll be an interesting situation. But I'm glad you've sort of put, like, I didn't even have to know anybody to know that Wittenbach is not transferring.
He's one of the most loyal kids there is.
No,
yeah.
He's either going to be a Bobcat or he's going to be a Flame. He ain't transferring to go anywhere. I hope he's a Bobcat. So,
yeah.
Colonel Ludlow.
I will say too,
Augustine stay one more year. Go ahead, Johnny. Finish your thought, and then we'll hit the Augustine comment.
I was just gonna say I'll be at the Frozen Four also. I know I think we talked about it on the show yesterday. Like you and I will both be at the Frozen Four. So if anyone's in Vegas, we always love to meet the people that listen to our show. We're gonna try to work on maybe talking to some guests there, maybe doing a live show there. So that's something to keep an eye on in the next 2-3 weeks. Always fun when I see you in person and we get to shoot the shit together and whatnot. Yeah.
When are you gonna fly in? Do you have?
I have to figure that out.
Because what we might Wednesday and Thursday will be in the same city. So maybe, I mean, listen, it's going to be 6 a.m. Vegas time. Yeah. But to be honest, those are busy days. So it's not like we can do the show much later. I'm wondering if we try to do a show, just do it in the same room. We'll have to get one of those mic thingies, those mic splitters, so we can have two mics running off of one computer. But we might have to we might have to work that out so we could actually just do our show in the same room. You know what I mean? We'll that up.
Jeremiah, we're not doing a live show. We meant just us two in the same room, not a performance.
Ryan Lott in our chat is asking our thoughts on the ACHA tournament if we have any. Honestly,
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it. Look, I would love it if the ACHA tournament was on CBS Sports. I would turn it on. I would have no issues with that. It's just hard when a lot of those events are internet only, and I know streaming and internet has become the way, but I'm sitting in the playroom with my kids right now getting slashed in the fingers by my son who thinks a hockey stick is a weapon. And he's just a wild man with it. But so if I can have the game on the TV in the background, that's great, but hard to go search it out. So I didn't see the ACHA tournament. I do think highly of UNLV. We've seen what they can do. We know the top leagues in the ACHA are good hockey teams, good hockey programs. They have a lot of fun. They get a lot of fans. So
we learned that lesson the hard way after we said club hockey is not college hockey last year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen,
I said that.
It is college hockey. I'm not changing my tune that club hockey is not even close to Division I hockey. I'm not changing my tune on that. But club hockey is fucking awesome too.
Yeah. The top programs are pretty damn good.
Can be true. They can be true. So yeah, and as Tutty T says, there's only so much we can cover. I mean, we do try to keep our eyes on a lot of hockey. I mean, Johnny, I know you're a college hockey analyst, so you should know every player in college hockey across the channels here, buddy. I mean, come on,
man. I don't even watch some of the top teams in college hockey. I don't have time. I someone asked me about Brody Lamb, and I was like, I don't think I watched a single Minnesota game all year this year. I didn't see them. I don't have time to. I watch the teams that I cover and the leagues that I cover, that I'm paid to do, and. You know what, though? Bucci will be on the call for the Frozen Four or the championship game for the women's, right? And if Caroline Harvey and Layla Edwards are playing it, you can bet your ass I'll be watching, especially Caroline Harvey. I fucking love Caroline Harvey.
We're doing the men's NCAA selection show on Sunday at 3:00, and that will lead into the women's national championship game. That will lead into that, which will be at 4 p.m. I think a lot of people expect to see Wisconsin women against Ohio State for the third year in a row. And I know there's been some, I don't want to say controversy, but noise around that Layla Edwards girl because she's going to play forward instead of defense. And she played defense the last couple of games, played defense at the Olympics. But look, the Olympics opened our eyes to a lot of these players. I mean, I know a lot of the retired female players Megan Duggan and Brianna Decker and, to see Carpenter and Hillary still out there, the elder statesmen of the team. I mean, those are the girls that I know, and the young ones, we're learning all about those girls now. There's obviously some talented ones. So
I'm actually covering that, the New York Sirens game at MSG on April 4th. I mean, I haven't gotten official confirmation, but I believe I will be covering it. Sold out game at MSG for the PWHL on April 4th. It'd be really cool at night, Saturday night.
All right. Did we I can't remember. Did we do bet?
We didn't do bet. No, we did not. Okay. We did not do it. Also have another, I do have an announcement. Just something I want to promote for a little bit later. But before we do that, we will get into our bet of the night presented by Bet365. So hockey fans, there are a few things more stressful than a close hockey game. One late back check can make all the difference between a chance at playoff glory or an early spring tea time. That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, is offering 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey fans have enough things to stress about with a 3-goal early payout. Now your bets don't have to be one of them. Bet365, download the app today. You must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. With that, our bet of the night, we're going to go with the San Jose Sharks on the money line in Edmonton, taking on the Oilers. The Sharks are plus money. Sharks are fighting for that playoff spot. Edmonton trying to hang on to theirs, but at plus 145, hard to not take San Jose with how they've been playing. They're coming off a bad loss to Ottawa, so it's a good opportunity for them to get a bounce back win in Edmonton. So that's our bet of the night. One other thing I just wanted to say, later on Tri-State, on the Tri-State Hockey Podcast, if you are a New York Rangers fan, we will be interviewing Peter Laviolette. That will be taking place at 2:30, so the episode should be up hopefully by like 4:30 or 5, depending on how quick Vic edits it. So if you have any questions that you want me to ask Peter Laviolette, feel free to DM them to me. I'll try to get them off. But that's all I got, Colby. So I'll kick it over to you to wrap up today's show. Long show.
Yeah, long show. All right, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Put your auto downloads on. Leave us reviews across the audio platforms. Leave us your comments on the stream, on the YouTube. I know YouTube was in and out today, but when the show ends, you can leave comments that we will see. Other than that, I think today's Tuesday. We got 2 more shows this week as we start to move into a real busy time, honestly, for the next couple of weeks with the NHL and the NCAA. So we hope everybody has an enjoyable Tuesday, and we will see you all tomorrow morning, 9 a.m.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Morning Cuppa Hockey here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, we've got more great hockey content every day. You can catch DFO live at noon and stick around for the sheet with Jeff Marek at 1 p.m. right here on Daily Faceoff. Until then, keep your coffee hot and your takes hotter.